It's a real honor being here with you guys at GoGrid, and we want to, well, first of all, who are you?
I am John Keggy, CEO and co-founder of GoGrid.
And tell me a little bit about where you came from, what caused GoGrid?
Sure, well, I've been in the infrastructure space a long time, internet infrastructure, since the early 90s. And that evolved into a managed hosting company called ServePath. And then when virtualization came around about 3 years ago, well, it's going on 4 now, we realized that cloud computing was on the way. It wasn't called cloud computing, and thus GoGrid was born.
Yeah. And who are you?
I'm Randy Bias, VP of Technology Strategy. I'm responsible for basically a long-term vision of the cloud computing platform, and I also have a long history with doing internet infrastructure since the early 90s.
Yeah. Start out with the trends. You know, I was just at Davos at the World Economic Forum, and in the cloud computing presentation there, and it was really packed, and obviously there's a lot of interest in cloud computing, a lot of hype. You know, what are you guys seeing happen?
Well, there must be good hype, because if you were just in Davos and now you're talking to me, you know, it must be hot. You know, there's incredible hype around cloud computing, and it's the 4th generation. I think this is what Cisco's coined it, of computing in general. It's a sea change.
Yeah. Why is that? What's happening that's causing a sea change?
Well, economics are driving it. Certainly this is the new economy. But ease of use, I think, is the primary thing that's driving cloud computing. You know, the day of making a multi-year contractual commitment to an architecture and to a vendor, and to that being a very risky and long-term endeavor, that's over. Yeah. Computing's gotten easier and less risky in just about every way.
Yeah. Last week in Davos, Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce.com, which is just down the block here, told me that in the future there's not going to be any more data centers inside companies. Companies are going to use cloud infrastructure like what we just saw to completely host their infrastructure. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah. And you know, their no software thing, we see us as the no hardware company. So if you go to nohardware.com, you'll see us blowing up servers, you'll see us burning them, you'll see us doing all kinds of crazy things, because we're saying no more hardware, no more data centers. That's not the way of the future.
Yeah. I liked how you put the whole industry into a pyramid. Can you explain what that pyramid shows and how you fit in?
Sure. Our evangelist Michael Sheehan invented this thing we call the cloud pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, you've got software as a service providers. In the middle of the pyramid, you've got platform as a service providers. And at the base of the pyramid, that's where GoGrid is. Those are the infrastructure as a service providers.
Can you tell me, define each of those terms?
Sure.
Because
Mark's company,
I know what they are.
Salesforce.com is the best example of a software as a service company. And thankfully, they just are doing a great job, and you know, they're a poster child for all the great things of cloud computing. Then in the platform space, another good example would be Force.com. It's a platform that developers can use to quickly roll out applications that would integrate into the CRM system provided by Salesforce, but you're kind of locked in there in the platform layer. If you have a very specific objective and you're building code from scratch, you'd want to consider a platform as a service provider. Yeah. But if you're looking for just raw infrastructure in the cloud, okay, you've already got your apps built, you want to use standard data center concepts, well then you need an infrastructure as a service provider, and that's GoGrid. Yeah.
It seemed, looking at some of your demos and talking with your geeks, it seems like one of the key differentiators is that you are running Windows as well as Linux, where a lot of the other guys seem like they started only on Linux. Tell me why that's important, and what you're seeing happen in the marketplace. How is Windows versus Linux playing out?
Sure, and Windows 2008. Our goal is to create a standard data center environment, but in the cloud. So we want you to be able to do everything that you can do in your own data center in the cloud. That's why we're saying throw out your hardware, get rid of your data center, and that's why we don't think there'll be data centers inside closets anymore in the future.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about technically how difficult is it do what you're doing? Because I know that, when I've helped people set up their data center, racks and stuff, and it takes hours or days of overnight sleeping, and loading disks in and setting up things and setting up a load balancer and all that fun stuff that you're probably familiar with, but most of us aren't. How difficult is it to click on an icon and have something spin up that fast?
So it's a real challenge to build out the architecture. We have to spend a lot of our time and resources in terms of building automation and building tools that allow customers to have their own isolated data center that's not, overlapping with any other customers. So when you come here and you have the GoGrid experience, it looks like literally your own data center in the clouds. You see none of the other customers. And so we spend a lot of our time making the experience smooth through automation and then making sure that you have isolation so that you never see the other customers.
When you say isolation, that's interesting, because one of the advantages of having a rack and a cage, in a real data center, is that nobody can get physical access to your
Correct.
machines unless you have a physical key.
Right, so we do that through software and through proper security procedures. So we have ways in which we enforce isolation between customers. For example, at the network layer, we can do that with VLANs. And then we also have proper security procedures where we make sure that only yourself can access your servers that are turned on GoGrid, and none of our operators even have direct access to that unless you give them access.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the cost advantages of choosing a cloud-based infrastructure like this over building your own data center and putting your own racks and your own cooling system, your own power supplies and all that fun stuff inside your company.
Sure, the economies are pretty straightforward. There's about a 20x improvement in efficiency that can be achieved in cloud computing. And if you look at our data center where we have colocation clients that own their own hardware and our managed hosting client base, you'll see that the CPU capacity there is about 5% tapped. 95% is wasted. And there's similar wastage with the storage and the RAM and all the power that goes into feeding that. And that's the economics behind cloud computing, getting rid of that waste.
That leads into environmentalism, right? Because if I'm sharing resources with other people, which is really what I'm doing with the cloud, I'm not using the power and putting CO2 into the air that I would be if I'm using those resources more efficiently.
Sure, and this is not a small improvement. AMD has a billboard across the street where they are advertising their new chips have 18% less power. And that's great, bless them. But you still have the power for the hard drives and the motherboard and the RAMs, and you still have the fact that everybody buys too much. They overbuy because it's not easy to scale when you have physical assets. Okay, and everybody needs to be ready for when they get slash-dotted or tech-crunched or scobled, huh? So if they get you twittering about them, you want to be on cloud computing. So cloud computing's got this 20x improvement that can be made. That's a real savings. That's a really green thing about cloud computing.
How do I know that headroom is going to be there in a cloud approach? Because when I built my own data center, I know what the headroom is. I know that I have 95% unused there. But with the cloud, I'm not quite sure whether you have the headroom to absorb my extra, if I become famous like Mark Zuckerberg or something like that.
Right. Well, it's highly unlikely that any one customer could overwhelm the capacity of a cloud. When you're sharing a platform with so many customers, the platform can be so large that the variances that could be seen from TechCrunch or Slashdot or Scobel, no cloud's going to get overwhelmed by that.
Okay. Tell me, obviously a lot of the geeks, entrepreneurs, people who are starting companies have choices, right? And they know that they can go to Amazon or Rackspace or now GoGrid. Why choose you guys? Why, in that space, what makes you better?
We offer Cloud Center. We offer standard data center concepts in the cloud. So you don't have to do anything special. It's easier to use. It's lower risk. You don't have to develop anything specially. You can take the architectures, the applications, the operating systems that you've got and put them on our cloud. Is that something?
And you're also running Windows servers and
Sure.
SQL Server, which other services might not offer.
Sure, we're the only cloud offering of Windows 2008, and we're doing quite a nice job delivering Microsoft SQL Server also.
Yeah. What is, if an entrepreneur, well, there's two use cases. An entrepreneur who's just starting out of college and is building a new web service from scratch. And then there's the enterprise guys who maybe have some Visual Basic code running, some older SQL Server code, and they need to move it out of their data center because they need to make, fit into a smaller budget or something like that. For those two use cases, what do they need to know when they're buying clouds, when they're looking at buying a cloud?
Not much.
Infrastructure.
They can just try it. You can toss your credit card in, and in fact, you can get a free trial, and you can explore cloud computing yourself in the middle of the night and get a taste for what it is. You can get started on your own. So we find enterprise, for example, the typical procurement process at an enterprise is famously long and bureaucratic and full of paperwork, but now we've got people that just throw in their credit card and they've got a new computing infrastructure.
Because it's only $100 to buy some of this. You don't need to spend $20,000 to get a new cloud up, right?
Right. Just do it with a mouse.
For the geeks, when you're sitting down with geeks who are coming through here from big companies or small ones, what do you show them, and what are you proud of in the infrastructure that you're building?
So a lot of it goes back to that cloud center notion where we have the standard data center in the cloud, and why we think that's special is that for, say, the enterprise folks, the enterprise geeks who want to be able to get a little bit of excess capacity that they can call on demand, it's very easy to set up a standard VPN tunnel, unlike with some of our competitors where it's just difficult to sort of actually bridge because they don't have a standard data center type paradigm. So that's one big thing. Another thing that we like to talk about a lot is scalability options. So, with the cloud, you've got options. With most clouds, you've got options at the lower end where you have, servers with a few gigs of RAM, up to the higher end where you've got servers with 4, 8, 16 gigs of RAM. And then we add on to that this ability to get dedicated physical hardware that's actually connected to your virtual server so that you can actually scale up very far as opposed to having to shard your database and manage multiple databases or 10s or 20 database instances.
Yeah. Are there any tips, real short tips, because obviously we can do a whole day-long class on
absolutely.
Cloud-based infrastructure, but things that a geek needs to worry about where they didn't need to worry about it when they had access to their own machines and their own racks?
Yeah, so I think really what we're trying to do is make the GoGrid experience look exactly like that experience inside your own data center. So there's not a lot of differences, or there shouldn't be a lot of differences. The things you just need to be aware of is that you are on a multi-tenant platform. It does behoove you to basically kick the tires on security of the different cloud providers you're going to, and to look for one that best suits your needs. So some cloud providers are focused more on developers, others are focused more on system administrators and operators. That's really where we sit. And so, I think you're going to find that the different clouds suit your needs depending on who you are, what you're looking to do, whether it's a brand new application or whether it's a legacy application that you're trying to move into the cloud.
Yeah. One thing I hear people who are going into cloud worry about is support and service level agreements. Hey, what happens if you're down on Saturday morning? Who do I call? What do I do?
Sure. Unfortunately, one of the leaders in cloud computing doesn't offer free 24/7 support. We hope they change that. We certainly do. We have a hosting lineage. So one thing we've pioneered is our 10,000% service level agreement. It really is the most comprehensive and generous, most detailed service level agreement that's available in hosting, and we've made it part of our cloud offering as well.
Let's spend a little bit of time just talking about your company and how it's funded.
Well, we funded it ourselves. Yeah, sort of unusual here in Silicon Valley, but
Very unusual.
well, yeah, there's nothing like cash flow, especially at this time in our economy. It's great to be operating a company that's not dependent on the folks on Sand Hill Road to make sure that we can deliver a quality product and be a reliable operator that you can depend on. So we've always been profitable, and that's part of who we are and what we do. And so we're having fun.
Yeah.
It's fun working for a company where you don't have to answer to a bunch of investors.
Yeah.
We answer to the customers. We don't have some crazy financial problem that we've got to cater to.
No, and you don't have that kind of pressure to squeeze profits out in the next quarter or
No, I suppose it gives us a chance to geek out a little bit.
Absolutely.
Focus more on features.
So, any last things you want to tell me about GoGrid?
Yeah, we're having a contest.
Oh, you are?
Randy and I are, and we're inviting you in our contest.
Okay. What is this contest?
Okay, it's a coupon code contest to get a $100 free coupon on GoGrid. I've got a coupon code GGJK that I'd like you to promote to your audience, and then we've given you a coupon code, and Randy's got a coupon code.
All right. What's my coupon code?
You're Scobel.
Okay. And what do I get if I beat you?
Let's see.
This is an incentive to go Twitter.
What do you want?
I don't know. How about a nice bottle of wine?
Okay, great.
What's your code?
My coupon code is GGRB.
And what do we get if we enter that code, one of our codes into, and where do we enter that first of all? Where do we go?
All right, if you go to use GoGrid, you want to give it a try, you want to get an experience with cloud computing, you got to throw in your credit card number. If you type in your coupon code, Scobel, you'll get $100 off free trial, which actually is enough to do quite a bit of computing. You can deploy bunches of servers and a bunch of storage and
I
load
should
balancers.
disclose, Fast Company and I are not getting any money for this. This is a fun little experiment that you threw in here. That's
Yeah,
great.
but if you beat me, you get a bottle of wine.
Yeah, that's cool. So we're gonna try that out and see how many people watch this video and actually go and try this stuff out. That's pretty cool.
All right.
Any last things that you want to tell us?
No, thank you.
And where do we learn more about it again?
GoGrid.com.
GoGrid. Thank you so much. This is a lot
Thank
of
you,
fun.
Robert.
Thanks, Robert.
Enterprise-grade hardware and software, you need to learn that that stuff will blow up on you. You don't need no stinking servers. Let them have it, boys.